Okay, let's do this. Let's stream. Okay, so Project Liquid Sky. Let's go. Uh, well, that's off. Of course it is. I need a camera button, don't I? Got it. Bit defenders updating. That's fine. Stream deck. Let's do this. Uh, Camera. Okay, does that turn off the camera in real time? It does. Okay. Okay, that's better. Just making the streaming thing up as I go along. It's fine. Oh dear. So we'll let Liquid Sky start up. Need to do some planning. I lost power over the weekend again. Things trip really easy in this room. Let's do that. Let's download it. Let's download the latest versions of the IDs. That's probably a better start. You know, because starting streaming prepared that's for good streamers. So the plan for today is very much to get kicked off the development phase of this notification system. I expect the notification system to be perfect. I don't expect the notification system to solve every problem. What I need to do is put the structuring in there for what I envision so far. If I don't do something, I will overthink and over-engineer the final solution. And what I do know I need right now is okay, it's holding both every time, that's fine. Close that one right a second, that's the deployment. So what I do know I need right this second is a should almost be up. Yeah, it's up. The basic structure of my subscription. So maybe, hello, how you doing? You're on, how you doing? How's things? Oh, I have I've built a mini tower of power out of mini PCs. Well, Mac and mini PC. RJ, how you doing? It's out of line, so it's bugging me. Okay. I feel hot and the air feels like a mini tower by. Yeah. So I've got a B-Link mini PC, which is meant to be a Mac mini clone, clearly, with a Mac mini on top of that. But I've got a base for the Mac mini, so it gives me USB connectors and an SD card reader on it. And later on, I can put an SSD in there as well, so I can extend the storage of the Mac. Yeah, and then the Mac Mini, and then I've got the Zowie box on top of the Mac Mini. So all the wires go in the right directions. So yeah, that's quite a fascinating little tower, little power tower. Okay, um, here we go. So today, what I want to do is I want to start the development of this phase. Um, Basically, what I started last week was kind of designing this out, thinking about how I wanted to tackle this, some of the problems that I might face, and uh, ideas, notifications, ramblings. So we're kind of talking about some basic needs for notifications. Um, I'm not trying to get to the end goal. I'm not trying to get to the, I want to be able to subscribe to every single possible change on a thing and tell me what. I need the workflow in there. I need the, okay, I can take uh, I can click on something. I can say, hey, I care about this field. I can get the messaging. I can get the emails or the notifications, etc. on the other side. And that proves the pipeline. Now, go back through that and add in other fields and see where they need to change things. Don't try and over engineer that. Don't try and overthink that or think about the end state. So subscribe to status on planning item, be able to subscribe and be notified of change of status on a specific planning item. So the first part is I need to be able to see it as well. Again, from a product perspective, they're thinking about the way they see it, not necessarily the way it works underneath. So they need to be able to describe what they see. And then the actual ability to see these notifications. Um, the UI for the subscription. This is my wireframe. I'm thinking that when you subscribe to something, you get the choice of how you want to be told about it. It's not just an all or nothing. You don't just get to say, oh, I want notifications this way. Every notification is going to come with its own thing. Um, Now, the interesting part here is I was thinking about this over the weekend. Is if I separate things out the way I'm thinking about separating them, or well, the way they are separated right now, right? So I'm thinking that notifications here is something I say, hey, I care about this field. And what the heck? Nice. The dog just settled as well. There's that. I care about this field. And sorry, my eyes are very dry or something today, so I'm rubbing my eyes and I shouldn't be doing. Um, I register this notification. I register this subscription to this notification or whatever, and I store the fact that I care about this field in notifications. I then store how I want to be told about this notification in communications. How do I pull enough information in there? Right? Communications isn't going to subscribe to everything, or maybe it does, right? Right? Maybe communications is um, going to pull the information so that it has all the data it might need to populate. Oh, by the way, this thing is now looks like this, or you subscribe to this notification on this planning item, right? I can't say, oh, you subscribe to notification on planning item one, um, and not give them the description. So that's going to be a challenge. And I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm going to go ahead with the design as I have it because, again, part of the benefit of this is I can move things around, right? If I feel that these services live together, or I feel that these services don't need to be one, there's multiple services required, or whatever, I can do that. Whatever feels right, I can do, and that's one of the beauties of doing it this way. Um, I don't have to make changes to the rest of the application. The rest of the application is unaffected. It's one of the difficulties of doing it this way as well, because I'm building out a system that is uh, much more dependent upon its communications and things like that. So there's pros and cons. right? I'm going to be right back because I just had coffee delivered and I'm going to have that. So I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. So I needed a coffee. So okay. So. Yeah, I am going to work through this, get this notification stuff in there. Now, from the UI perspective, I'm going to need a new dialog. It's going to call an API that I'm going to create as part of this piece. The API exists, but I'm going to need a change to this screen, a new dialog, and that's it. I've got no edit subscription yet. That doesn't exist. I'm not going to put that in there. So from the planning perspective of that, tasks, we've got pen ready for development. So yeah, update UI. So the UI is going to be me. Add button to planning item, show a dialog as per markup. When saved, should indicate that there are subscriptions. So it does need to know that there are subscriptions. That's an interesting thing that I put in there. Where did I say? An indicator is visible on the planning item. So I have screwed up there because I have not thought through this piece, right? Because there's no piece there. So again, is why this process is necessary. It's why this breakup is necessary. I didn't put in the ability for that to even come round trip. So that's great. I've caught the notification. I've subscribed to the notification, but I haven't done anything to say that subscription has, or that planning item has any form of notification, right? Now I just need to know that it has an active subscription notification, whatever, however I want to term that. I suppose subscription is probably the best way of terming it. Okay, guys, 1 second. I don't normally eat on stream, but I got some hash browns and the dogs are fussing. All gone, buddy. All gone. All gone. So yeah, I need to do that piece. And I don't have that. I don't think I have that hooked in yet. Let's have a look. So I have notifications. I have view. I have a subscribed entities. So I do have the integration event hooked in. So on the service side, application notification side over here somewhere, subscriptions, specification, subscribe to planning item, entity subscription created. Oh, pardon me. So there is a subscription. Okay. So there is a subscription that is published. So we don't need to care about that necessarily. We just need to put the indicator on there. So we do need to tackle that in that UI. So let's make sure we add notification integration event exists. So with that said, that's another 3, I think. Ramley Geek, thank you very much. I appreciate the sub. Welcome in. Good day. So let's go and create a new sprint. This is going to be what is this sprint going to be called? Well, it's going to be, let's go sprint 1. What do I want to? I'm going to try to start in working in 2-week sprints. Sprint 1. That's just this sprint 1. Select team, alpha team. Starts today. Finishes on the 14th. I'm hoping, so I have this week off work, so my streams will be longer that week. I don't know how much longer, so I have work off, but I do have responsibilities that may require me. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, but we'll aim for this to be a 2-week sprint. We'll go into here and assign that to sprint 1. And we'll assign this to sprint 1. And we'll go there, sprint 1. There we go. Those are items. Okay. So let's get started on this. So update notifications, planning items to accept parameters. So let's drag this over here and let's have a look at this. There's a weird issue. There's something I'm not tracking properly. The way I'm doing it. So if you click it, shows, click it again, it doesn't show again. You have to click on something else and then click back, which would be damaging if it was only one on the screen. Not bad. Got an interview for working at a local prison on Wednesday. Contractor escort, basically helping people move around the prison, check they're using the correct and safe equipment, etc. It's a way in. I don't want an IT job. I want something people focused and to make a difference in the local prison. That could be a way to do that. Huh. People streaming, I'd be 100% be there. But he's a slacker. So the benefit is mine. So cool. Okay, so we're getting that started. So uh one of the things that I'm trying to think about is kind of identifying um, planning items, stories, etc., so that you can put labels on your branches, etc. But because of the way I've structured it, it's not very simple to do that. So yeah, yeah. Best of luck with that interview. Interesting direction. Ah, you start work today. Well, congratulations to you as well. I suppose you've got to figure out what that means for you as well, being that you're starting weird hours. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting path. But yeah, we'll let you off. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying not to rub my eyes, but uh, just means I go to bed later. Gotcha. Cool. Okay, so we're going to create a parameters table. We started working on that last week. So in notifications, we started creating subscription parameters. So we've got entity subscriptions, which is this. Entity type, I'm going to leave in there for now. That matters. Subscription parameters. Again, we can have the subscription ID, which will link to the entity subscriptions, and the name of the property we are watching. Um, it's not going to be quite as simple as we might think, because the front end is going to represent certain things. Those properties on that front end might not be labeled the same as the back end. So we've got to put a translation in somewhere potentially, right? Or keep the names consistent. So that's a challenge of doing this sort of stuff. So we've got the table, we've got this, we need now to start scripting. So let's get the branch created. New branch. So feature, um, status, notification, subscription. Um, yeah, this is not going to be a tiny uh update either. So let's start with updating so that all the development we're doing is done on updated packages. Because yeehaw. Aw, what's that? YouTube is quiet. I deliberately tried a catchy title. Okay. So foundation changed there as well. Yeah. So there's mass transit change updated. So let's go and check out feature status. I could have done both branches at once, and I should have done. It's probably best practice to create branches for both, even if I don't use a second one. Status notification subscription. It is possible to branch both. So we have our branch. Let's create our scripts. So notifications, one of the few that's in here. Again, I'm not using migrations because migrations are challenging at best. Generate DLL to clipboard. New file 001. This will be subscription parameters.sql. That, paste that. Okay. So we have our script, we have our table. We now need to do our parameters in notifications, including context. That makes no sense. So endpoint include through application. No, define parameters in notifications. Oh, yeah. Include in DB. That's Spendy Cuba. Hello. How you doing? Good morning. So just trying to make sure I clarify that. Define parameters in notifications, including DB context. So what that is we need to go here now to our domain and create subscription parameters. Messed up your sleep schedule again. Well, I'm happy for you to be here. So this is going to be that table, yes. Brain work. Public int. Oh no, public. This is public long ID because there could be, well, there is likely to be a lot of parameters, although int would have been sufficient, I think. If I'm being honest, I don't think I'm going to get into the billions of parameters. Billions seems excessive, doesn't it? I mean, I would have to be wildly successful for this. Not with that attitude. Yeah. Is that? I think that might be overkill. Well, I know it's overkill. So for comparison, big int versus int SQL Server. Properties in C#, simple way to access fields and control the use access. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it creates a backing field by default, so you don't have to create an actual separate field. Yeah, I don't think I have to worry about that many parameters. If I use, so int is, I hate how it, like, -2 billion. I mean, to hit small int would be pretty good, right? Yeah. But properties in this case, yeah. Um, this will create a backing property for the system. It'll create a private long, well, it'll be like K backing field ID or something like that, right? Uh, Automatically. Yeah. And welcome in Shiny Pants. Why would I want a negative ID? So 2.1 billion parameters would be able to be stored, or what is that number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a lot of numbers. Thousands, 100,000, or millions, billions. Yeah, I think a big int might be overkill. I mean, and it's also storing 8 bytes. So every row is going to be 4 bytes bigger than it should be in terms of storage. So I'm not getting anything but taking up 4 bytes per row, which if I get 200,000 records is still a lot more data than needs to be. So let's modify this. Let's modify this to be int. Yeah. Okay, so what we do is we drop the table, we do that. Did I make this big int? I did. I made subscriptions big int as well. Uh, I prefer my brain doesn't fully switch on in the evening until the evening so I can be goofy in the morning, stream code, and then work. Yeah, you're gonna do some long days, right? If you even if you start a stream at like 10 a.m. Yeah, I suppose your date actually sounds really kind of nice. A 3 to 11 work day. Like you can get stuff done, then just go to bed after work. Yeah, you can still have you can still work decent hours though. Like you can still have decent hours during the day. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to modify that script and put that table back as int. What I should probably do is, yeah. So again, for me right now, 2 billion parameters would be an amazing figure to hit, right? So um, if you think about a user might subscribe to maybe 100 entities, they're going to remove those subscriptions. There's going to have to be a way of saying, by the way, this plan item's completed. Do you want to remove all your subscriptions to it? Yeah. Or, um, and there's going to be general and whatnot. So 2 billion parameters would be a crazy number of things. And even at the subscriptions level, 2 billion. I'm going to leave the big in on that one. I think it's possibly more realistic if the product grew to be a tens of thousands of companies creating hundreds of thousands of items a year. 2 billion starts to become maybe potentially more realistic. So yeah. Um, So let's do that. Let's leave it like that right a second. Okay, so we go back here. So this is Project Liquid Sky. If you are interested in asking questions, if you want to know more about the technologies or the product itself, let me know. This is a part-time project that I put a significant amount of work in. I recently switched back my stream focus to being 100% Liquid Sky for the time being, purely to make some progress, some major progress on some of the harder pieces. Public, so that has to be a big int, doesn't it? Did I? Please tell me I kept that one as a big int. Yes, I did. Okay. Long. And that is an ID because it is related directly to this subscription. I'm not going to be editing that parameter independently of its subscription. I'm going to know about the subscription every time, so it's fine. Why am I not firing on all cylinders today? This is kind of property from to, and these are strings. Because I don't know what data types I'm going to store. Now, this is exactly where I probably would use something like a NoSQL DB. But in this instance, I don't know anything about the object that I'm going to get. I don't know anything about the type. So I can't actually infer anything. So everything's going to be a string. Non-nullable property is an yeah. So they're not required. So all three of these are null. I would much prefer that or something. But yeah, you can have. I could subscribe. Oh no, that's not null. Sorry, um, that can't be null. So I can subscribe to the property changing on the entity, right? Or I can subscribe to the property changing from a value or to a value or from and to a value, right? So I can say, oh, if it changes from this value to anything else, tell me. If it changes to this value, tell me. If it changes at all, tell me. Right. So that's the goal there. So there's our parameter. Again, that weird bug. So define parameters in notifications, including DB context. So now we've got our entity. Go to our infrastructure here, context, notifications, DB context, and we can add that. Actually, the other day, I saw something that made me think I don't need to do this part because I do this. Something made me think that I don't need to do that because I've got the configurations. We might experiment with that at one point, but ooh, why did I do that? It's a subscription parameter. Um, it is a collection of subscription parameter. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if I do this now and I do subscription parameters configuration and I create entity type configuration of subscription parameter. Subscription parameters, right? Because that is the collection. And then you can do builder dot property P goes to P dot property has max length 255. I prefer doing this over putting attributes on the actual thing. So you can do that, but I don't like doing those things. I don't like this model becoming cluttered with attributes because, yeah, it's just a preference there. But you can do it. Okay, so we've done that. We've added that. Define parameters and notifications. It could be context. Let's do this. Upgrade all you get packages to latest versions. Commit. Yeah. Fine. Subscription parameters. Include script. Table. Add entity, including context. Commit and push that. So yeah, if you're new to the stream, you're more than welcome to ask questions about the code, about the project, about the technologies. I'm happy to divert to show stuff if it helps get context on what I'm doing. If you have opinions, if you have thoughts on why I'm doing something or how I'm doing something, you're more than welcome to join in. Said I'm not a new developer. This is just my way of building the software. Okay, so now the next phase of this, add parameters object collection to request. Also, I need to show the why here. So I'm missing the why. The idea is that when you click on a task, the task should link back to the planning item that, or the requirement specifically on the planning item that drove the need for this. The goal there is to keep you attached to what it is you're doing. So if you were building Endure, if you're building a story, you might subtask, but you're still going to be linked back to the story. Or even if you're working on a specific story, you've got all the details of the story right there. This method of building this application means that that story is lacking here. So I just have the context that I pull through. So the intent is to very much link back to the why. Why am I doing this task? What does it actually relate to? Are there missing requirements? And that'll be one of the things is figuring out how to navigate cleanly back and forth and be able to show the developer, oh, by the way, this is the planning item, these are the comments, etc. I want to be able to do those things eventually where the developer is able to go and read anything that happened regarding this requirement or look at attachments for the requirement, etc. This, as it stands, disconnects those processes. So add parameters object collection to request. So this is now go to notification. So when you subscribe to an entity right this second, right? So I've got the planning item subscription already there. So parameters to me are kind of just a decoration on top of that. So let's add them in there. So public class CO class. We don't want to suggest that we can inherit from this or change this anyway. Public steel class. The funny thing is the parameters object. Subscription parameter. Public string property. Public string from. Public string to. Public IEnumerable subscription parameter. Now, this is not the subscription parameter in the entity. This is a separate subscription. I'm just sad that when I get a job, I'll be away from the computer the whole day, so no more Twitch. Yeah, that's especially if you're not going into IT or anything that involves sitting at a computer. Yeah, I was going to say that's going to conflict. What is this though? That's kind of a cheat, by the way. That's I need to start using this more. Required is better than saying, "Oh, it I promise it won't be null later," right? However, this is going to be empty, right? Input. So I call it parameters everywhere else, which is I'm debating. Gonna break that. It's warning me about that. It matters, right? It matters because I want to make sure that I'm representing it correctly, and I may mimic this pattern elsewhere. But these are parameters. I can't think of a different word for these things because they are parameters of the subscription. I don't know how to define them any better, right? That is a planning item identifier. We are implicitly in the planning item subscription. So we have our client is going to make come on. Our client is going to make the request with those arguments, parameters, however we want to term them. It's going to get stored here. This is then also going to monitor for things coming in from changes. And if one of those things changes to the values that we have, this is going to be the expensive part, right? Because I'm going to have to. This is a piece that would benefit from scaling sooner because it might take a while to figure things out, right? Okay, who's subscribed to this entity? Okay, this user subscribed to this entity. Um, hey Vi, on the Atlas scheme. This is I'm using Insomnia, not Insomnia, Obsidian as the application, and I've got the um Xscaly Draw plugin for Obsidian, and then the app that I'm building is Liquid Sky, which is this app. Dota, good morning. So this is Project Liquid Sky. This is my planning application. Yep, no worries, Dota. I appreciate the luck. Have a great day at work. Totally understand that. Sprint one. There you go. I should just suck it up and and get a bot enabled in my stream. So yeah, if you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, please feel free. You're more than welcome to ask questions. I'm happy to talk about the software as much as I am to write the software. Talking sometimes helps me clarify stuff, so it's all welcome. Okay, so that said, so add parameters object to collection to request, and then pass the parameters into the subscription and capture those parameters. That's part one. Right. I have many thoughts and opinions. I'm sure you do. I, I, I know that you're joking with me. I know that you're having fun, but I do want to say, I know that this is massively overcomplicated for one person working on a project, trying to build something. There's an awful lot going on here, but this project is not just about making something that I want to release. This project is about making something that I want to learn. I want to. I'm all here for you. I don't pay attention to what you're building, and I appreciate that. I sincerely appreciate that. I can grow with this project and build real world applications, and you don't get to do that in a side project very often. Not that real world solutions are much more refined in most cases than what you can do at home in your spare time. Sometimes they're exactly that. So there is an awful lot going on here that for a solo developer to take on is insanity, but that is okay. It is part of the plan. I feel like that needs saying from time to time because it just looks like I'm just overcomplicating everything for no reason. So we need to pass that object down now. We need to pass that forward. So the subscribe now. Yes, I'm going to create something very similar. Yes, I'm going to basically mimic that same design I just did. But each layer has its own purpose for that thing. So what I'm going to do here is public sealed class. I have zero interest in a project management tool, but I think you're cool. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Smirking, how you doing? Parameter public string. This is not mediator. This is mediator. It is actually another library that is open source and has not gone paid. Mediator, literally the word mediator. It is a little bit different than mediator in that it is generated. So there's actual code generation that goes on. So when I create these, it actually hooks up all the code rather than actually doing reflection or anything like that. But the API is almost 100% compatible with Mediator. So if you're using Mediator and you want to swap out for something that doesn't cost, right, or isn't going to cost any money right this second, um, you can switch over for it. There's a lot of buzz around building your own now based upon these libraries going paid, and I also use mass transit in here as well. Um, and a mediator library isn't a very difficult thing to create, but it's I kind of prefer to use an off-the-shelf solution right this second rather than trying to invent that wheel. Um, and yeah, so mediator is pretty good. Uses code gen. Um, so yeah. Doesn't work too well if you are adding commands from different libraries. That is something we didn't get to in my distributed, not my distributed, my monolith app the other week. Might have to revisit that one. So this is required, and then public string from. Public string. So applying item identifier, IEnumerable, parameter, parameters. Oh, parameters. There you go. Calling commands from other commands is working fine. Yes, yes, that is fine. It's not. I know that Jimmy Bogard has often said that is not a good practice. I don't do it often in here. Um, the only time I really use that method is with acquire. So if I'm going to when I'm receiving something from Kafka, I acquire the entity so that it creates the stub of the record, and gives me back an ID that I can use internally. So I get that eventual consistent data integrity. That's where I do it, but it does work fine. And I also use this method. I also use this library because it does notifications as well. So I'm publishing the notifications as part of my change to do domain events, which I then subscribe to and publish in Kafka integration. So yeah, it's doing okay. So yeah, the internals of how Liquid Sky's doing stuff is a little bit more complicated. So here, all we're going to do is we're going to do request content dot parameters dot select. P goes to new command dot parameter. That's why I don't do that very often, because that's going to look like that now, and that's going to feed. Oh, actually, hold on. Why don't I do it that way? It will read much easier eventually, I promise. I have no idea why I did it that way then, but it's fine. It's all fine. Why? Why are you fighting me? That's a bit easy to read. And over here now, that is p dot property p dot from p dot to. There we go. So yeah, when I send a command, subscribe to planning item here, the uh, entity subscription itself has a domain event. It publishes a domain event. When that data is stored to the database, after it's saved, I publish that domain event. So now I know it's in the database, it's fine. That domain event is then listened to from this. Actually, it's stored in an outbox, processed independently. So I get that an action will commit everything to the database and then publish its event. So everything that's happened through that action has been done and saved, and now I have that data available. So the outbox then listens, the outbox is monitoring and then picks up the notification and publishes the mediator notification, which is then picked up by this, which then publishes the Kafka event to its own outbox. So I kind of get double the complication, but stages of delivery of messaging. So my first priority is save the data that the user is asking me to save to the database and don't overcomplicate that piece. Because right now, what I'm going to end up doing, what I haven't made clear in this one is, and I'm not going to overthink it, I'm not going to go and do anything extra right this second, is I'm going to return this subscription identifier. Actually, do I even have that? Yes, I do. I have an identifier. So I'm going to return this identifier back to the client. So the client's going to get that. And so the saving of a notification is going to be a two-phase thing. So first it's going to save this information, and that's the notification. And then that's the notification. So this is the subscription to the notification. And then the actual communication method, which I'm referring to as a notification because that's what the user thinks as a notification. So we might have to change some wording here, is then able to use the ID return from there to store that preference for that notification. Yeah. So let's proceed. And I'm going to turn on a little bit so it cools me off. So now we have our parameters and we now need to store them. So we've added this. So if existing is null, this is an interesting one. I built it with the wrong thing in mind. Hmm. So I overstretched on this one. I put in the ability for it to update, and there is no update. So that's a lie. So I checked to see if there is a subscription already, and then add in there. I haven't built that ability yet, so there's no benefit in doing that. So essentially, this can become that. And just to prove that is fine, we'll run linear tests, which did I have a test for updating it? And subscription exists. Yeah. Okay, so I tested to see if it would update. And subscription exists and subscription was updated. Why would it update? I have no case of update right a second, so there's no point. Okay. So this test is a little bit different to my normal tests. Normally I would structure them differently because there's a lot of unnecessary uh, code. Oh, there's a lot of setup, etc. But yeah. Okay. When a user goes to a planning item, this is where I get into copy paste world. That and parameters are provided. Hey Zons, how's it going? So we get into copy paste. Async task. I spent yesterday looking at tons of different PM tools. Oh wow. How'd that go? Click up Asana, Linear, and Notion. Basecamp. ClickUp I hadn't heard of. Asana, Linear, Notion, Basecamp, yes. A few new ones. Cool. I'm quiet because I'm waiting for the logical next. um, okay, so I'm parameters provided. So we need to provide these parameters now, right? We need to provide a field. A few hours, but linear is really the only one that sticks out. If I understand linear properly, linear is kind of similar in concept. Like I didn't look at linear before I started Lucas Guy, but I think linear is probably the closest um from what I understand. It's not quite just a cookie cutter. Here's stories. Here's boards. Go. I think it does have more of a workflow. It's a nice tool to structure an entire org. Nice. It's opinionated. Yeah. Structures in a particular way. Gotcha. So we have when a user subscribes to a planning item and parameters are provided, you have some flexibility, but you do things the linear way. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. What do I want to do? I want to create parameters. I want to create these parameters. So var parameters equals new subscribe to planning item dot command dot parameter property from to. If you can set up my LS account, let me know. Let's try it. You should be able to register. I mean, the problem was the password you were using was not good enough for Auth0. I didn't see any other error than the password being. So you should be able to create an account. Unless it was failing in some different way that I didn't see, but I didn't see any other error than the password being. Like, I can happily set you up an account, or I can give you an account to access it with if you want to play with that instead, but the password, I just need to put some validation on that screen because the password that you were choosing was not sufficient. And I don't have any validation on that screen yet. So if you want to try and register another account and let me know, I will tell you if it goes through. It is up right this second. So again, the let's do this. Parameters. Parameter. If you tried that password, then Auth0 has some other restrictions in place that I'm not sure of. Hey, Connie, how you doing? How's coding today? Coding's going okay right this second. We're adding in the parameters for notifications. I gotta fix that bug. So you can subscribe to an entity and tell it, right this second, the idea is one field, but ultimately which parameters you care about and what values you care about them changing from or to or whatever. So we're kind of working on that right this second. The idea being that you'll be able to go into your planning area, you'll be able to go to a planning item and say, hey, subscribe to this, and which fields do you want to subscribe to? And then when those things change, you will be able to be notified. So, and how you want to be notified. If that went through, everything I know about entity framework would be just gone in an instant. I suppose you pretty much know the database you're going into is going to have a users table. It's pretty much guaranteed. So yeah, so the intent is very much to be able to say, okay, I care about whichever fields on this object. Tell me what changes. So if you want to say, I want to know if a status change happens and the review date changes at the same time, or I want to know if the status changes to ready for planning and the review date moves out a month or whatever. So the goal is very much to build on top of that stuff. So I'm starting with one field, just one field. That's all we care about, and going to build out those like these simple use cases. As a product lead, as a developer, as a product manager, right? Kind of work on them, validate those use cases, and that will then get me the the flow to getting the notification stuff in there. So this first item is the subscription. It is the actual notification. So it's the round trip. So I've got all the components in place, and then we add on the extra pieces to add to see how much that flexes and how much needs to change, and then we'll widen the number of fields you can monitor, and as we add a field, validate, oh well, what might you want to know about this? Oh well, I want to know if it goes more than 3 months out, so maybe there's different comparisons required. We're very much trying to build a flexible notification system that can be added to other entities in a relatively short amount of time, but without doing the over engineering up front. So we want to validate a repository was added. We also care about so the actual way of doing this, because subscription parameters have no value without subscription parameters have no value without a subscription. There's no point having specific repository, etc., against subscription parameters. So that means that I want to change this slightly. The entity should change. So entity subscription should have a collection of subscription parameters. It's implicitly parameters. There's no need to have the word subscription added on there again, because I'm on a subscription, right? Which means that the behavior of this changes slightly. Where's my objects? So I think it's time to start breaking this out. Where are you? Tenant management, domain, please. Where are you? Notifications, tasks, probably. Domain entities, task, here we go, task.behaviors. So we're going to start doing this. So standards. Entities. So the way that works, and that's just to make me refine that later, right? So I'm trying to build out some form of documentation that I can reflect on later. But these things matter. So what I do here is I create a new file, and we call that entity subscription behaviors.cs, right? And that's going to go there, but now I can drag that there, and it'll associate it with that so that I can see that it is nested. Now I go here and make this a partial class and make this public partial class entity subscription. Put in the namespace, otherwise that's going to make a mess. And now we take, do I move that? Did I move it? Yeah, I did move the create. So all the behavior stuff goes in here. The idea there is that the data is the first thing you care about. The associated behavior. So this is all stuff that is the domain level stuff, right? Not the not the actual data, because these objects kind of pull double duty. This is not my design. Several of the larger clean architecture projects did this, so it is not. It feels right. It does feel okay. It does mean you end up with kind of a big class, and you've got to be careful how much behavior you put in there. So normally my measure is if I start putting a ton of behavior into the thing, I create a service, and that's where most of that organizational behavior goes. But if it's data, if it gets to the point where I'm changing the data or whatever, I am going to put that behavior on here. So it is still about the data. Like in this case, I'm going to use add parameter or set parameters or whatever. It is a behavior in so much as it is manipulating data on the object, but it is data associated with this object. So yeah, and then it publishes domain events and stuff. So yeah, we will see. So now over here, I can do public um, uh, void add parameter, and this is going to be a subscription parameter, and that's going to be parameters dot add parameter, and now eventually a domain event can go there. So if we just modify the parameters, if we don't update the object itself, right, but the parameter changes, because we might want to do date modify a date updated updated date, right, last updated, there we go, equals, we might want to do that. I'm not sure I'm saving it via this object. This will be an interesting one. So I do have a rule built in that says, okay, if an object has a last updated on it, and we save it to the database, update the last updated. But in this case, adding a parameter might not trigger that, because I'm actually firing that on a separate table. So we'll see. We shall see. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because now over here, and again, if you disagree, if you don't like what you see, if you have a thought on why I'm doing something or how I'm doing something, if you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome. I reserve the right to continue on and ignore anything said, but yeah, we'll see. So the challenge there is, so we're saying we're going to add a subscription, and that a subscription created event was fired. That's still valid, but I also need to know that and s dot parameters dot all p goes to p dot from equals property, and p dot to equals p dot from equals from. Let's test that. That should fail. Mm. Whoops. Really? Did I change it? No, I didn't change anything. How did you pass? You should fail. Oh, well, it doesn't matter that I typoed it because it still shouldn't pass. I don't think it's doing anything. I think the problem is that, oh no, there you go. Expect to receive a call matching. Interesting. So let's validate that that passes, and then we'll worry about the how. But let's get it to pass, right? So to get that to pass, we're going to take this var subscription, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to do for each var parameter in command dot parameters subscription dot add parameter new subscription parameter property, well, subscription ID, property equals parameter dot property, from equals from, 2 equals 2. There we go. And then we add the subscription. That passes. So it definitely deals with that. That's interesting that it doesn't. So let's do that again. Make sure it fails. Right. Um, and s dot parameters dot any p goes to p dot property equals property. Still fails. But we know the first one. We know the first one will succeed. So let's remove the count now. That passes now. Let's change that to all. Let's change that to comment that out now. Still succeeds. Okay. So it's not passing for the right reason. Let's change that back to any. fails. Interesting. But there is only one in there. So an all will return true, even if it's not there. Doesn't seem right. What is breaking while p dot from equals 2. And let's put that back in there. I want this to fail. Okay. I want that to pass. Again, what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to increase my confidence that the test is going to catch the data. If I mess that up, if I change that, if I organize this code differently, especially when I come to do update, subscription, etc., or remove parameters, add parameters, etc. What I want to do is be able to say, okay, well, now I am confident that that is catching that case. So that's the scenario I'm concerned about. Okay, so there we go. So there's our entity subscription, and we add the parameters to the entity subscription. Another way I've done this is to set the parameters from here. So I think set requirements, update requirements, update associated projects. So this has okay, in this case I just do it in this in the handler. Oh, that's because that's a different thing. Associated. Planning domain. Planning item. So this is one where I could benefit from that breakout into the behaviors because I've got 200 and whatever line. So yeah, associate attachments. Okay, and associate assigned dependencies. Right, these are doing so I give it the list and then I go through and figure out what's the difference so that I can just call assign and give it the list as it currently stands. But we're gonna leave this one simple for right this second. We don't need to do much more than this. Once we get back to edit and things like that, we change the code. But I'm not overthinking it and thinking about the future right this second. All I'm thinking about is let's get this piece working, subscribing, etc. And that's the goal for at least today. Okay, so we are going to, we've got our test, we've got our behavior, we've got our command. That's done. Right, so our task, I need to give navigation as well. Like this is, oh, that's a pretty difficult one to go look at independently. There's no like single task detail screens, etc. right this second. So clicking on it would take you to no idea where.
Okay, so capture parameters for subscription. So now we have an API. We can test this in theory. This is where I do need to, I do realize I need to get set up to do some integration tests. So what I should be building here is an integration test to validate that when I call this, I actually do save it to a database. That would be the best way of validating this. So the way I would do that is I would bring up the notifications endpoint. Well, no, I have to configure the sender and all those sorts of things to make sure that everything worked there properly. And I would use a test container of the database. So there's a lot to go into setting up an integration test, but then getting that working, then I could validate this and run an integration test to say, oh, by the way, now it does actually save to the database. All that data is validated. It's in there. There's no reason to believe it'll fail. Now we can go beyond that and ultimately then go to end-to-end testing, which is a scary world. Okay, so let's get, so that's going to start dev liquid sky. I never did switch over, by the way, but never mind. So let's start up. Let's start Insomnia. Uh-oh, that's not good. Something's going to crash. Almost certain something's going to crash. See, it's collecting data. Something's crashing. All of them crashed. That is because we need to tackle something different later. I should start now. So this week's schedule is as last week, and it may be this way for a couple of weeks more. I don't know what. So my PT switched to earlier hours. So rather than going late in the day now, I have to go earlier in the day. What are you failing on now? Address already in use. Stop all. So yeah, I'm doing PT early in the day, 8 a.m., which is right in the middle of my stream time. So I will not be streaming tomorrow, and I will not be streaming Thursday. Friday is July 4th. So, but we have nothing planned. No, no, no events. So I will likely stream quite a bit longer on Friday. Morning, Mr. Ranhorn. And then the weekend, I have another drive to do, so I won't be around on Saturday. But then going into next week, and I've got plans on Sunday, so there'll be no gaming stream this weekend, that's for certain. But then going into next week, I have the week off work, so probably three or 4 hour streams on Mondays, on Monday and Wednesday, pretty much guaranteed. And maybe a later start on even on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might start at like 9:30 my time, but we'll see. We'll see what it means. I just upload malware to my words. What? I'm going to assume accidentally. Oh, are they your formal works of? Nice. What was your plan if it didn't? Did you upload it to a server that was about to be decommed? Let's see if this works. I'm going to assume as any as a security test that there was a plan. We're just waiting for everything to start there now. I don't need everything to start. I can just start the gateway and this particular endpoint, but yeah, why not? As a file that was generated by security towards trivial majority is going. Gotcha. Okay, so it was a yeah. Okay, cool. It's quite the test. Grace going to say we didn't have a good enough process, but now we do. Nice. Okay, so we have a process up and running. Liquid Sky, planning items, tenant management. No, we don't have one for notifications. So collection notifications and Liquid Sky notifications. Add. I can imagine that's reassuring that your own local AV was actually finding and deleting it for you. That's pretty cool. So what I'm trying to test here is, so we have a planning item. Let's go get a planning item from here. Let's do that. And then what we need to do is we need to call our endpoint, right? And this is going to be subscriptions, a post to subscriptions, planning item, body is going to be JSON, have identifier. Actually, I don't know why I didn't put the actual GUID on the end of that one, but we'll worry about that one later. And then parameters, which apparently I can't spell, is going to be a collection of objects. Property is status from, and we're just going to do property status, and we're going to do property title, and it's from test to other. So I'm going to start off with the actual case that I'm actually not too worried about, which is the both of these two parameters being added at once, which is actually not the use case that I'm particularly starting with. So the problem is we need to go to app settings and find notifications. Notifications isn't there. So we haven't set anything up for notifications yet. So the notifications cluster isn't actually configured. So we need to go I need to organize this as well. Destinations. Destination 1. Address. So I need to figure out what notifications is running on. Notifications, console. What are you listening on? Configuration, properties, launch settings, 7200. Okay. So go back to here. This is going to be localhost 7200. And then we're going to do notifications, subscription, route, see, cluster ID, notifications cluster, match, path, API, not a big fan of that. I don't, let's worry about that afterwards. Transforms, path, pattern. So subscriptions, line item. What I could do here is that, right? And then it'll go to planning item, task, etc. iCar test file, so it should be harmless. Nice. We have a at work we have a security group, a review. Yeah, it's all manner of hoops and things to jump through for security stuff. So it's not something I get directly involved with, which is good. Whiteboard. Okay, so that's there. So we should be able to restart the gateway. API gateway. Gateway. See, if the problem is if it runs it through the app host, you can't just stop it like that. It must be nice having a team. Oh, really? It's fine. Then we can start that again. Okay. So now, if we go to the gateway address. Oh, come on. So while I'm waiting for that to go to sleep again. So that's going to be localhost 7285, which is the actual gateway, API subscription spanning game. So that's what I'm looking to post, right? I'm looking to post that to that endpoint. I need the auth token first, though. The reason that that is going to work is because notifications is going to be using internal auth. So I can't just communicate with notifications internally. I can't bring this up in that way. What I need to do is I need to go through the gateway with this test API request, because the gateway is going to take my auth0, offload that, validate my tenant and my permissions, and then send me towards the notifications. Come on, we can get one piece of success today. So am I moving as fast as I want to do on this? No. Jota, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome in. I would love to move faster on this, but I'd rather do it right, and I'd rather think about it. And if I was sat here on my own, absolutely, yes, I could absolutely go a bit faster. Edit configurations, .NET projects, Aspire host, delete, apply, okay. App host HTTPS. I could probably delete the HTTP because I don't like that. Yeah, talking through it, chattering about it is not going to make me go faster. However, it is going to make me more confident in the my ability, because I'm actually describing what I'm doing, which has some advantages. So I'm looking for here is a clean startup of everything, all 17 services, the 16 Liquid Sky services, and 15 Liquid Sky services, and then the gateway and the app host. So what I'm looking to test is this communication from like here, a faux here, and I want to see that it lands in the database and has all the pieces there. So first we need to go and we need to start the client up, because I don't have a solid way of going getting a token, auth0 token without it. I probably should just script that out. So we should have 17 services, everything's up and running, we're all good. Start Chrome. Chrome is what I use for testing the development tool, whereas I'm using DuckDuckGo logged into the actual one. Sign in. There you go. Copy value. There we go. That's working. Auth bearer. Actually, I just have the word bearer in front of it. There we go. So now I should be able to send this. And there we go. We get to our endpoint. Okay, so we have our endpoint. Our request content has identifiers and two parameters, a status and that. So now let's do that, and let's hit a 5. Invalid column name, entity, subscription ID. Yeah, because I called it subscription ID. That's kind of. Do we want to make it entity? I mean, it is redundant, but let's do that for now. Let's test that once more. Invalid column name, subscription ID. So let's change that back. I don't, entity subscription ID is redundant. It just doesn't make sense. Entity subscription parameters, subscription ID. I call it subscription ID there. Where did I call it? Entity subscription ID then. Invalid column name. ID, subscription ID, property from to. Invalid column name, entity subscription ID. That's hilarious. So it's definitely that column changing things, but yeah. Oh, it's the navigation property. It's the fact that it doesn't know how to navigate. That's the problem. Okay, so I just need to fix that. I need to tell it what it links on. So I need to tell the relationship, and that will fix that. So cool. Okay. Progress there. So, as noted, no stream tomorrow. Doctor's appointment. Well, PT appointment, not doctor's appointment. PT appointment for tomorrow. But Wednesday, when I come back, the goal will be to do a bit more of this off stream. But the goal will be very much to move forward with these tasks. So get this done, get the UI put together so we're able to see, you know, this where is it? Notifications rambling. So something like this where we can say, oh, I want to subscribe to status changes, or I actually care about specific values, and here's how I want to be notified. Now, this piece here is an interesting one because this actually isn't going to go to this, and I haven't tasked that part out. So again, thinking about the requirements, going ahead and thinking about what it is you needed, not just because it's a UI, because if I just accept this planning item and say, oh yeah, this is fine, we can do this. Oh no, we need to build all this out in the other side. So again, I'm lacking enough, and I'm doing this deliberately, but by the way, I'm going a little bit faster to go slower in that I am trying to build out some of these things quickly or quicker so I can make more forward progress on the project without overthinking it and try to move forward. So that said, I am going to so these notifications pieces need a subscription. So to be able to do this subscription, I need that subscribe and how I'm subscribing. So yeah, there's going to be more there because the UI component for this isn't going to work until I put the notification stuff in. So it might be that I flip this a little bit and plan it differently so that I can subscribe, and that's this component done. However, then when the first one of these gets done, part of it is to add the UI for the subscription. And also revisit the vocabulary because I want to make sure that I'm clear about what a notification is, what a subscription is, etc. But yeah, so that's going to be it for today, I'm afraid, because yeah, because they do pay me to do a job as well. So yeah, fun. Who's streaming? We'll go to Anna today because yeah, we'll go to Anna. Yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, if you like .NET content, One Lion is a .NET developer and streamer and streams Wednesdays through Fridays. On Fridays has a community day, which is always a great place to go and hang out. So I highly recommend checking out One Lion stream. Yeah, let's go raid Anna. Anna Sasdev is a talented developer working on many projects, the focus of which I'm very confused at the moment. Well, I'm sorry about Anna's BRB, but anyway, I have to run, so please please join me in going to Anna. And yeah, I will be back on Wednesday with more Liquid Sky Dev. Hopefully, we'll get the subscriptions in them, and hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be somewhere towards having the ability to receive an email or a push notification. Well, push notifications, that's a lot of work. That's why they're not tasked out yet. So we're going to have a lot of challenges there. I'm going to rip out what I've got currently and replace it with SignalR, which means moving components around and changing things. So there's a lot more distributed systems fun to come in the coming streams. So, but yeah, let's go, Anna. One Lion, good morning. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will catch you all later. Take care, all. Bye.